Okay, let's call it says order meeting of the West Newbury Selectboard Monday, January 9th. It is 7:14. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. The meeting is also accessible by remote participation. There are Zoom capabilities. Announcements. The Select Board will vote to close the warrant for the spring, annual, and special town meetings the meetings are not on Monday. The vote to close them will be on Monday, February 6th for the warrant. Some positive news: the town was awarded $32,000 in the Green Communities Action Grant to improve the HVAC controls in this building and in the annex. Rick, you want to expound a little more on that?
Sure. This is phase 2 of a project that was done 2 years. The first phase was done 2 years ago, where the fairly ancient and archaic design of the HVAC control system that was in the building, which was what's referred to as pneumatic control, was upgraded to a direct digital control, with a sophisticated controller that essentially allows you to control individual rooms, and they can be controlled at any time, for a time of day, based on current conditions. The old system would run steady state all the time, the same temperature, day or night, weekend, holiday, summer and fall, or summer, fall, winter, spring. And now everything is done based on current conditions and time of year and time of day. So it's proven to save quite a bit of the current upgrade has saved quite a bit of money already. We saved probably 20 to 30% of the heating and cooling costs for this building last year. So the second phase is going to cover the rest of the building, which is the Council on Aging space, as well as get rid of some areas down, or some equipment down in the basement that is part of the system that just won't be necessary anymore. So we're hoping to see similar savings for this next stage.
Great. When will work on that start?
Well, that's to be determined, but the goal would be to have it done by the end of this fiscal year. And it isn't because the money goes away at the end of this fiscal year. It's just that using there's a program, an online database called Mass Energy Insights that we use as part of the Green Communities program, and that tracks everything based on fiscal years. So if we can, if by some good fortune the system comes online right around the end of this fiscal year, the beginning of next fiscal year, it makes it really easy to compare year to year and to see within the first year what kind of gain we have. So, which was the case last year. So hopefully we'll get that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, we've just gotten the notice of award. We haven't gotten the contract paperwork to actually put that in place, but I think once we have that, we should be able to move quickly.
And what was the town contribution to that? Is it
25,000?
Oh,
Yeah, so so there's utility incentives of, I think it's either 10,500 or 12,500 from utilities, 25,000 from the town, and 32,000 from the Green Communities program. Last year we applied for the same grant, exactly a year ago, and we lowballed. We thought that we wanted to pay as little as we could, and it didn't work. So we didn't get the grant last year. So this year we decided to. We also learned more.
We upped our contribution.
We upped our contribution. We learned more about the metric that the Green Communities program uses in deciding what's a good grant application and what's not. So although we still didn't really meet their metric, we applied, at least we understood it, and we had a little bit more educated guess at what it would take to get accepted.
And we're successful.
and we're successful this time, yeah.
That's great.
The Sage Center, January 12th, which will be this Thursday. At 11:30 to 1, we'll be having a lunch and learn session with the Merrimack Valley Transportation, someone from there, so people can learn about the availability of public access to transportation in the area. Other events coming next couple of months in the Sage Center, luncheons, yoga, exercise classes, conversation, information for veterans, hours with Senator Tarr's office. Details you can get on your at the newsletter. Still looking for volunteers for boards and commissions of the town, wnewbury.org/volunteer. I've said that about a billion times. Reminder to subscribe for town agendas on wnewbury.org/subscribe. Item A on our regular business is going to be passed over.
Archie, did you want to just say something briefly about Moody's?
Okay, you do it.
So this is late on the agenda, but it's just a brief update and it's pretty exciting. So we did just late last week get our announcement from Moody's. They have upgraded the town's bond rating from AA2 to AAA, which is the highest rating we can get. And they skipped a step that would normally go AA2 to AA1, then AAA. So they actually skipped AA1 altogether. So this resulted in a ratings call that was initiated mid-fall, and there was a lot of preparation that went into responding to the written questions they sent us, as well as preparing for the Zoom meeting that we had with them in early December. So we just got the information late last week, and we have a draft press release that's embargoed, but that should be finalized within a day or so. That we'll have AAA rating, which is we have now the highest rating in both Standard & Poor's, which we got back in the summer, and now with Moody's. And so that's an enormous, it's a really good thing for the town. It's going to result in favorable terms for future bond issues. So that's something that could yield savings for decades to come. So I knew
Congratulations to you and then the staff.
yeah, it's been a real team effort, as you've heard me say before, but I will say we have we have a small finance staff, but they're really good. And have been for the last couple of years. So I knew if we brought this up at 10:30, no one would hear it. So
No, that's good. So that doesn't mean if you need to borrow $75, you can go see Angus.
He has different terms.
So first item on the agenda be passed over with no action. As you know, they withdrawn that application for the one-day liquor license.
Next item is a special event permit. Debbie, are you here about that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Deb Hamilton. I live on Middle Street, and I am a board member and vice chair of Essex County Trail Association. We are an organization that looks after about 450 miles of trails in 6 towns and has provided a lot of expertise, funding, and bridges, trail improvements here in town over the years. And typically ECTA runs at least 3 running events per year, a couple of 5Ks and a 10K, which they have not done in West Newbury yet. But we decided that an event that would probably engender a lot of interest is a Canny Cross event. Canny Cross, CANI, K9, and cross country. So Canny Cross involves one dog attached to one person by a bungee leash. The dog's in a harness and the person has a waist belt on. And we'd like to do a 5K Canny Cross at Pipe Stave, Dunn Property, Mill Pond, following pretty much the same routes that cross-country runners do there. We'd like to do this on Saturday, March 25th. We have no idea how many people are going to be interested in it. It's new to this area. This is a huge sport in Europe, but not very well known here. So we're anticipating perhaps 50 people. And we will do a lot of educating. At this point, we have a great logo and a lot of enthusiasm for it. But it's still, we're a couple months out and the most important part is getting your permission to do it.
Is snow involved?
No.
How does this work?
So I think that the first people who got into Canny Cross were mushers. And back when I used to race sled dogs and I had a 5-dog team and, 10 or so dogs in my yard, it was a big deal and we could count on snow all winter, but that's not the case anymore. So a lot of people who used to do sled dogging now do ski joring, which is a skier with 1 or 2 dogs. And in order to do it in spring and fall, it's not something you want to do in the summertime, especially with sled dogs who don't like to run in the summertime, too hot for them. But it is an up and coming event. We hope that on March 25th, the weather will not be muddy and we can, it's going to be pretty low impact, even if we have 50 dogs and runners. I ride a horse in those trails year round, and I don't think there'll be any damage ecologically. We're not going to be serving liquor. We're not, we'll get a porta potty. But we would like to think we don't need a police detail, and we will park on top of Pipe State Hill.
So you will be limiting it to 50 people, or is that to be determined based on?
It's yet to be determined. I mean, I have no idea. I'm trying to line up a couple of people who sell harnesses and the gear for it so that people can equip themselves beforehand and do some training. But what we've found is that at our races, a lot of the people who come, they bring their families and they bring their dogs, but typically at our races, the dogs can't race. They just wait at the start finish line. So this is an opportunity, and we get 150 or so runners at our races. I will say that Carol Lloyd, who is our trail director and our most knowledgeable person at ECTA, is on the line. So Carol, can you hear me?
I can.
Do you have anything to add? Oh, there you are. Hi.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of how the race on the day, it's run like a traditional trail run, and it just includes the dogs, but it is, some people register the day. We don't think there are going to be more than 50, 75 people, maybe some people coming to watch. But compared to what the races usually run with, that's really a minimal number. And it, we'll know more as we get closer, but we're pretty organized and pretty excited to have this new event. We do a lot of things on the trails for the riders, for the runners, for the bikers, and now here's something that we think people can enjoy the trails with their dogs.
Very cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the obvious question is, what about dog waste? How's that going to be managed?
Yeah, there's a list of rules that we have at time of registration and that go out, and they very much have to clean up after their dogs.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in you said hopefully it's not muddy, end of March.
Could be.
seems to me like potentially one of the mightiest times of year. And, I mean, there's nothing to guarantee, you know, but, I don't know, exactly what trails, it will be on in Pipe State, but
Yeah.
there's some trails there that are good in
Mhm.
mud, and there's some trails that are really messy, and I guess I'm.
Well, because there's a certain degree of maneuverability that you want, I don't think we will be doing the woodsy trail. So I think we're pretty much gonna be sticking to the margins of the fields.
Okay.
And then the
So-
roads
yeah.
that, down
Yeah.
along Mill Pond.
Oh, okay, so it's essentially on, most of it's on grass or on gravel road.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, all right.
And the mud really isn't an issue. The trail runners don't mind mud and the dogs certainly don't.
Yeah, my concern was more about damage to the trails, because they are walking trails and I mean, although 50 people, quite honestly, the dogs have minimal impact.
Right.
But people running can have significant impact, and if you have 50 people on the same route and it's a muddy, and it's a fragile route, then it'll be damaged. And, so, but it sounds like you're choosing surfaces that are
Yeah.
not.
that's-
And anything that might need work, that's sort of what we do. So we're happy to make sure the trails are in good order when we leave.
yeah.
Good, yeah, there's about 2 or 3 miles of trail on there that could use some work. Would you find out?
I know. Use those, right?
Just kidding.
Carol, did I understand that you have kind of like an information packet for people who are interested in signing up?
Yes. Yeah.
So would it be agreeable, we have a standard one-page indemnification that we give to volunteers who do work on town lands. It seems like it would be smart to see if the participants would sign that as part of the packet. It's not in any way onerous, it just said it acknowledges some risk associated with physical activity and says that if they're, injured, that they're not gonna, sue the town over it.
Sure. And when they sign up and register, there is a waiver that they automatically agree to. And we have a waiver on the day for the people who just show up that day. So we're happy to include it with.
Okay, and that, it may be overkill, because we've already got a certificate of insurance from ECTA, so we have that. So if they're indemnifying you, I think that covers that.
Did you look at the insurance certificate, Angus? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Someone want to do a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the request for the use of facilities for the ACTA Canicross event on March 25th.
Second,
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
aye.
The first of many.
Great, so whatever we can do to help get the word out, as you know, we've got the town website with the email blast, we've got the town Facebook.
Good.
We've got that LED sign in front of public safety, so if you guys wanna, if it says something we can do to help bring public attention to the event, just let us know. Jim's office has actually become kind of the point for that type of communication.
Great.
So you can send it to me, or you can just cut me out and just send it to Jim or Rebecca, and they take care of that. I still do the Facebook post, but they do all the website
Good.
and the LED sign.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.
Have fun with it.
We will come see.
It sounds great. I bring my dogs, but they're Yorkies, so they will.
Vicky, I want to see all kind. I think it would be great to have some little. Somebody running to York.
Apparently, with a dog pulling you, you run faster than you run.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very taxing.
Do people ever get pulled down by the dog?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, going back to my sled dog days, you can train a dog to do what you want it to
Yeah,
do in the
yeah.
pulling department, so.
Yeah.
I think it'll come off without a hitch.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was thinking the mud would make it more interesting for spectators. Our next item is a proposed MBTA Communities Interim Compliance Action Plan. So, as we know, the Commonwealth has issued a new directive that all the communities bordering and on that are connected by MBTA lines of any type have to come up with a district to allow housing units of density greater than at least equal to 15 units per acre. And in our case, the town would be have to come up with have a district zone that would allow ultimately the creation of at least 87 units of housing. So that's where we stand, and it's sort of a carrot and stick with this particular legislation from the state that the communities that do not participate or create an action plan to do so would be ineligible for certain types of grants from grant funding from the Commonwealth. And this doesn't mean that the West Newbury is necessarily going to be building high rises or anything of that nature, but it does mean that we will get to the point where we will develop a potential plan, and that will obviously have to go to town meeting and be voted on and everything else. But we have to at least come up with a plan of action that will be submitted to the Commonwealth. So that's where we stand.
We are joined remotely by our town planner, Sue Brown. So she has put together the action plan that's included in your packet, and so she can outline that as well as the process that has been followed over the last 6 or 8 weeks to develop this and bring it to the planning board, and how she came to be here tonight. So Sue, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. So as one of the next steps that is required by the towns who want to stay in compliance and be eligible for those pots of funding is what's called an interim compliance action plan. It's a pretty straightforward online form with a series of questions about the town's intent for coming into compliance. It is, as many of the working sessions that the state has put on, it's very clear that this does not obligate the town to take the actions that it says it intends to take, or create any other requirement. It really is just a good faith effort to say, these are the steps that we anticipate taking. And all of them will be dependent on the study that we'll be doing to understand what are the best steps and the best strategies for coming into compliance for West Newbury. So this online form, I know that you have a copy of it, answers questions about the town, what it's done in the past to encourage housing, a diversity of housing and affordable housing, and what we might do to meet these regulations, which really, as was pointed out, is to create a district that will allow a certain number of units. And as you also realize, we do have a grant that was received, so we can get a consultant to help us evaluate these districts going forth and put together draft regulations. So this draft action plan is due January 31st, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this particular action plan.
Sue, if you could just briefly speak to the planning board, I believe has signed off on what's in the packet.
Yes, thank you, Angus. The planning board reviewed this at 2 meetings ago, found it to be acceptable as written. The one question that they had was on the scheduling. You'll notice that the town does not have to be into compliance until the end of December of 2025. We've asked to bring it forth, a plan forth, and a district and regulations forth for annual town meeting in 2024. In the event that it does not pass, that would give us another shot at making any changes that might be recommended, et cetera. But so we could meet compliance by 2025. Our hope is that we will get it right the first time, and that we'll have a really robust and effective public engagement process that allows us to create something that has broad community support. But we did want to build into the schedule a what if.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had just sort of a minor question. I know that we're just in the very preliminary stages of this process. I thought we were at 75. How is it 87? Is it
87 was the number that was in the.
it was,
Yeah.
oh. I thought we were at the bottom. It was 75. Okay. 80, that 87, 60.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Which was a big sigh of relief.
From 750 or
Right.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Sue, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you did, because I don't know if you've researched this further, if it's anecdotal, but you know, if you would share with the board what you told me about with regard to the town, Kingston, I believe, where funding for their housing authority operating budget was actually cut because the town had declared an intent not to participate. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that is my understanding. That was put out in a, I don't remember Mass Housing or someone, organization put out a notice that the state was being quite forward and reacting to towns that have decided not to try to comply, and have already sent notices to the communities that are not in compliance as of this point. And as you may know, the early compliance requirement was simply to host a meeting, an informational meeting within a certain period of time, and then put in a form just certifying that you have done that. And those that did not have already had a bit of a hand slap, as I understand, and are not eligible for those pots of funding.
Sue, do you have any idea how many towns, I'm just curious, how many towns chose that path?
Yeah, it was less than double. It wasn't double figures. At my recollection, it was, you know, a handful, a half a dozen or maybe, but less. I think less than 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's prudent to stay in compliance as long as you can,
Right.
regardless of your ultimate intent.
So Sue, will you and the planning board be taking the lead on all the public education and engagement part of this?
So my understanding is that we'll lean heavily on the consultants that we have a funding. We received a grant to hire. So I've sent Angus a first draft using grant language and model language for that scope of work. And I think we would want a very robust and iterative public engagement process. And I've, in my early writings of drafting of that, is leaning heavily on them, that consultant, to produce both an engagement plan that we could agree to and to do a lot of the work associated with public engagement.
Okay. I think that's gonna be really important.
I
So,
agree.
but I think your memo is excellent, though, at just kind of condensing everything to a one-page explanation, so I appreciate that.
I'm glad it was helpful. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know,
And
go ahead.
the funds available, I think it was 70,000, is that what?
75,000,
75.
including a $7,500 local match, which, if we needed to incur funds before town meeting, we could, but I would intend to bring forward a article on the special town meeting for April 24th to appropriate that 7,500.
Okay,
So the grant is 67.5.
yeah, okay. Thanks. So that which should be plenty for what has to be done.
We think it's more than double what we'll need, because as you know, when we put in for the grant, we thought it was 750 units, so we had included scoping for, you know, really looking at the water. Water is gonna be part of it, we're gonna have to look at that, but 750 is obviously a very, very different situation than 87, which is still, you know, a lot and represents roughly 6 years of growth in the town of West Newbury. You know, we average about 14 to 16 building permits a year. That's a pretty steady number over the last decade or more. So, you know, it's not a trivial number, but it's not obviously anything near 750. In terms of the public engagement, I would say that, you know, I think the consultant can definitely be helpful in coming up with an engagement plan and making sure that when people show up, that there's they're there and that you have well organized and dynamic and interesting meetings that are really engaging of people. But in order to get the people there, that's something, you know, we're all going to need to work together on that. You know, the planning board certainly can help, but this board will need to be very involved. And, you know, I think once we have a outreach plan, we're going to want to get as many local boards and committees as involved as possible, even those that might not be intuitive, you know, like open space committee. I would say they ought to be proactively engaged as well. We ought to get as many people involved as we can, just so people learn about it. And when it does come to actually having a proposal and a plan and, you know, proposed zoning that's going to need to go to a vote, that the voters are as informed as can be, you know, whether they end up supporting it or not supporting it. We want people to be engaged in the process and informed. Because certainly if we don't end up getting something approved, there will be consequences that will affect everybody. So everybody ought to be involved in that decision.
Well, you know, I guess the good thing about that is that it, you know, it does require the entire town to buy in, and or at least, you know, a majority at town meeting to buy in, and or actually 2/3 majority, I guess.
Well, actually, that's a good question, Sue. On the it's a simple majority now, right?
This would be a simple
Oh,
majority.
that's right. That was just this last session, wasn't it?
Right, yeah, the new law. This is something that's gonna take us former, you know, our town planners years to unlearn the 2/3 majority. But yeah, if you're.
No, it's always easy to learn an easier hurdle.
Yes, yes, no, it's a simple majority.
It could be
Yeah.
easy.
Which is not the simple.
Exactly.
Were there other questions or comments on the draft? Oh, to be clear.
So do we have to endorse this or?
Yeah, it doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, I don't think the state prescribes how, I have to send it to the state. I would not obviously do that without the endorsement of this board. So I think we had talked early on, I think with this board, that having both the planning board and the select board express support for it before it's submitted to the state by January 31st was the goal. So the planning board has endorsed that. So you're being asked tonight to either endorse it as is, or if you wanted to modify it prior to endorsing it. At that point, I will go ahead and submit it through the online portal to the state, and we would now be in interim compliance.
So the signatory would be you though.
Is there a signatory?
I assumed that there was, but I haven't.
I think it
come
goes through
across-
their online portal.
Okay.
Angus, the legislation and the guidelines say that it can be submitted by anyone with authority to do so on behalf of the town pertaining to zoning rights. It could be others, but to be consistent with kind of the thoughts that we want broad town, a townwide approach to this. I think it would be great to have the planning board has already signed off and given their approval, so I think it would be great to have a vote from the select board.
So
I think the actual signature could be select board, could be Angus.
Great. Based on all this, I would move that the select board endorse the plan as presented tonight
And authorize the town manager to sign,
and authorize town manager to sign. Correct. Thanks.
or submit. I don't know if I sign or what.
Yeah, right. So that, yeah.
Person with the state, so.
Okay.
Yeah, second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, Sue. This what you provided is just a printout. That's not what's actually submitted. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you can't, I couldn't actually create the whole form because it's depending on the choice that you make, some there are drop downs, but this was the language that would be submitted. I don't think there's anything else there's nothing else that would drop down, but you're probably not seeing on this form some of the other choices that were there, but they weren't relative to us. So yes, it's it's just an online form that then will require certification that it's being submitted by the appropriate authority.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any more? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Sue.
Terrific, thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you on it.
Great, thanks very much.
Next item is a proposal to the CPC in coordination with Greenbelt for funding to support the Sawmill Brook Conservation Project, which is basically a possibility of purchasing a conservation area that borders the a mill pond area for the town of approximately 32 acres, and it's off of Poorhouse Lane.
And I just did a screen share for those who are remote, and we're joined by Vanessa Johnson-Hall. So I don't know if you want to. So I think the board's familiar with the proposal, but prior to this being taken up by CPC at their meeting a week from Thursday, we wanted to get a formal vote of endorsement. So we've got the map up here. Appreciate the map updates. Looks great.
Absolutely. I don't know if you want me to speak. I know I've presented this to you before. I'm happy to do another quick 30-second blurb on it, if that would be
I think that would be
helpful.
good because this is the first time the public is hearing about it.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm Vanessa Johnson-Hall. I'm the Director of the Land Conservation Division at Essex County Greenbelt Association. This Sawmill Brook Conservation Project is actually a proposal that the town acquire this land. It's 32 acres directly abutting the Mill Pond and Pipe State Hill Conservation Area. It would connect Mill Pond Pipe State Hill to conservation land that's being set aside as part of the Deer Run development on the western side as well. I love this map because it really does show the incredible green space that West Newbury is protecting and how it's connecting into a green belt, if you will. On the top from the River Road Conservation Area, which the town helped Greenbelt protect, to the River Run Conservation Area owned by the town, which then connects across the street to the Coffin Street Conservation Project area, which we completed last year. With the town, with mostly the town's help with that. And then across the street to Pipe State Hill and Mill Pond, and all of those dashed lines the white are all public trails. So it's really cool to think that eventually someday, one might be able to walk from River Road all the way down to, we hope, the Sawmill Brook Conservation Area. The Sawmill Brook Conservation Area in yellow is 32 acres of land. Greenbelt has that currently under agreement to acquire for $705,000. So the proposal is that the town acquire this land. We think it makes more sense for the town to own this because it's adjacent to Pipe Safe Hill and Mill Pond. Our proposal is that the town acquire it using $350,000 of funding from community preservation funds. And the other half of the money, or a little bit over half, would be fundraised by a combination of Greenbelt's private fundraising and state grant funds. So we will be working with the town, assuming this passes at town meeting, we will then be working with the town to apply for a state grant that would reimburse 56% of the acquisition funds to the town. If that grant is awarded to the town, only about $210,000 of CPA funds would be needed. But we're recommending, because these are competitive state grants, that the town authorize spending up to $350,000 of CPA funds for the purchase of this property. It's still a great deal for the town. This property is indeed threatened. It could be 2 home sites. It would be 2 estate home sites, likely with a very large footprint. Protecting this land acquiring this land would protect incredible habitat. There are wetlands on this property just to the downhill slope of this property on the western side that then are part of the Sawmill Brook river corridor, and Sawmill Brook flows directly into Mill Pond and then ultimately into the Merrimack River. So protecting this land as intact forest land and wetland really helps preserve that water quality of Mill Pond, and ultimately helps also protect water quality of the Merrimack River. In addition to allowing for the expansion of trails from Pipe Safe Hill and Mill Pond Conservation Area. They're currently Poorhouse Lane, which is mostly abandoned by the town, does serve as a trail corridor, so people do access Pipe Safe Hill and Mill Pond from Argolis Place. There are currently some trails that cross Sawmill Brook, which are not open to the public, which then could be open to the public and expanded upon if the town acquires this property. So it does allow for the potential for trail expansion from Pipe Safe Hill and Mill Pond, and that abandoned portion of Poorhouse Lane is just a gorgeous trail right now. And when you walk up that, you've got woodlands on both sides. On the western side, those woodlands would not be there, or a big chunk of them would not be there if there were 2 estate home sites there. It would definitely alter the visitor's experience. I noticed when I walked up there recently that the Historic Commission has recently renovated a historic burial site from the poorhouse and signed it, and it's really an incredible peek into West Newbury's past. And behind you is all woods as you're facing this historic cemetery. And I just couldn't imagine sort of walking up Poorhouse Lane and having, you know, a giant house and lawn behind me right next to this beautiful cemetery. There's something about having the peace of the woods as you're looking at this kind of sad piece of every town's history. So it really is an incredible opportunity for the town. We have, as you know, formally submitted the application to the Community Preservation Committee. They'll be reviewing that on January 19th. We just received a vote of support from the Conservation Commission, so they're on board with having the care, custody, and control of this land after it's acquired by the town. We have co-applied with the Open Space Committee, so they are also supporting this application. And I think that's it in a nutshell. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
One thing I just noticed on this map is I think this boundary is not correct. I think this CR goes across, and that this is town land, but it's not part of. So it's just a little housekeeping thing.
Interesting that you say that, Angus, because that did come up, where that boundary came up, and I did look at the original conservation restriction that Greenbelt holds on Pipe Safe Hill, and it does include that parcel.
The town forest.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, that is town forest.
yeah.
Okay, and that includes the,
It does not show up now if you look.
oh, what do you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
It
right.
does not show up as protected land on the assessor's maps that I.
Okay, that's.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I was in conversation with Sue Brown about this, because she's the one that brought that to my attention initially, just looking at my map. So she's gonna talk to the assessor.
Okay, good. Oh, Sue's got her hand up.
I just wanted to say that I did contact the assessors about that, sent them the documentation, and they said that they would correct that on the map this year.
Great.
Yeah, I've always wondered what the history was of that particular piece of land, the town, what's referred to as the town forest. But I think that's not really directly relevant to the topic at hand.
Motion,
Didn't we already vote to support it?
In executive session, you met and it basically
Okay,
endorsed the financial plan, but there hasn't been an open session vote to endorse the proposal. Nor anything since it was actually written up. So, as you know, as your time on CPC, they'll be looking for minutes to show the support of the sponsoring entity, which is the select board.
well, I move to support the application for the Sawmill Brook project.
Second.
discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you so much.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for that. Great work. Oh, did you?
I'll just follow.
Okay, great. All right.
Because technically we haven't moved on to the next topic yet. It's interesting. I'm just looking here on my map and at the assessor's card for that parcel. And it shows transfer was January 1st, 1900.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
I wonder, it doesn't, not clear to me who it came from, but literally the very first day of the 20th century. Wow.
Right,
One thing I've found over the years, not specific in West Newbury, but in working in different towns, is the level of attention spent by assessing offices on town-owned land is
Right.
very,
Right.
sometimes records will just atrophy for years without any updating, because they're focused.
There's no tax revenue.
Yeah.
so our next item is we just want to review the wage classification study that was completed just recently by the Collins Center. We had initiated this a while ago, and it finally got completed in December. So all the non-union positions in the town were put on a classification scale depending upon duties, responsibilities, that type of thing. And the basic premise being that we wanted to put employees on so that they comparable jobs with comparable responsibilities, even though they might be in completely different areas of the town, would be, ultimately would have, equity in how ultimately in pay and responsibilities and that type of thing. So that was the purpose behind this. And also, we wanted to establish salary ranges for the different grades that we came up with. And we also created steps within these grades. And again, the salary ranges were established using comparable communities in this part of the Commonwealth. So that's about where we are. With a lot of input from employees, from the Collins Center itself, and evaluations done, investigation done by the Collins Center. They helped us out a lot. We contributed to the report with a lot of give and take, and ultimately came up with grades for the different positions in the town and salary ranges. So that's where it is.
So as you know, from the last meeting on December 19th, the board had previously voted and approved certain aspects of this, namely the position grade structure, the assignment of positions to grades, and also the grade and step schedule, which is shown on page 10 of the report. So those ingredients of this report have already been voted and acted upon by this board at your last meeting. But this is the first time that the complete narrative and the complete report is in front of you. And this includes, in addition to the ingredients that you mentioned about the salary survey and all of that, we did include one ingredient in the work scope that is not typical for wage studies, which I think was worth the effort, which is the staffing structure in different communities. That begins on page 11 of the report, and that shows what positions and what hours different communities have in different offices. So I think that was something that I think will continue to be a helpful resource, just to know where we stand in terms of capacity, in addition to the compensation structure. So yeah, the report is in front of you. If you're, for your endorsement, or if you have, questions or things that you think aren't quite right, that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
Well, I think we've worked on this quite a bit together. Some people, Angus and Wendy, put in a lot more time than some of us others.
Then us two slackers, yeah.
But we've hashed this out at length, to say the least. I think for myself, I don't have any questions at this point.
So do we need to vote to accept it? Is that what?
I think that would be very good. Yeah.
Then I'd move to accept the wage and classification study, or classification compensation study. The name right.
Second.
Further, all those in favor? Aye.
All right. Nice job. It's a lot of work.
Thank you to everybody
Right.
that did this. We realized it took a lot longer than planned, and a lot of things happened, and it was a lot more work than anticipated.
Right. But I really think it's gonna help guide the town in terms of, fair handling of compensation and definition of, making it clear what staff responsibilities are, going forward for a long time.
Yeah, let's not maybe do this again in a year and a half.
All right, good. Well, now with your acceptance of the study, I will broadly circulate this. I have provided Obviously, following the actions that you took at your last meeting, the letters were sent out both to all employees and then to individual employees regarding what you had voted that night. But now that the complete study is accepted, it's already on the website as part of tonight's packet, but we'll circulate that as a separate document. That way everybody can have it. I've provided, some of the, grade and step tables that a couple of department heads have asked for their interest or for next year's budgeting. But I'll circulate the complete study tomorrow, so everyone will have that. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but I think it came together nicely.
Mhm.
And I think it was definitely well worth the effort. It's something that was on the select board's list of objectives going back to 2018. So it's something that's been a work item for a long time to get it done.
The one question I continue to have, I should have actually said this, but it doesn't change my full support. But referring to these steps as 11 steps.
All right, right. If you were going up a flight of stairs in your home and you're standing at the bottom, is that step one or is that the floor?
No, I got that, but the way it is currently, there are 11, there's a min.
Which is
There's
the
a
floor.
max, which is
The
the floor,
max is
there's
the
a
one
max,
at the top.
which would be, to me, the last step. If I was
Disagree.
going up it.
I
if I was
disagree.
Because I take a step onto each step, start at the floor,
The
start at
step
0.
refers to the physical structure of the stairway, not to your action. It's not a verb.
We- No, you can two-step, or you can,
Okay, this is where the chair moves the conversation along.
But
I think you and I
it's
were never
kind
gonna
of-
see this.
It's kind of like when we're in you just mentioned something in the 1st of January. 1900.
Right,
It's 1900, but it's in the 20th century.
right. Okay.
Same thing.
Right. Okay, letter F, this is not anything for board action. This is based on the action you took back on December 5th. You had met to review the regional agreement and to firm up the revisions that you'd like communicated to the other towns. So this has been sent out. And in addition to sending it out in PDF format, I sent it in Word so that people have it editable. If the other towns wanted to, revise these or add to these or whatever. So far, I haven't gotten any response back other than acknowledgement of receipt.
Mhm.
So I expect, I knew it would take some time because they've got to get it to their boards need to review it and so forth, but at least the ball is rolling.
So hopefully, and just for the public's sake, what we, at least as far as coming from West Newbury, we tried to make some, we think are improvements to the Pawtucket Regional District Agreement, which we can suggest every 3 years, and so we're sending our suggestions to the other towns to see if we can all be in agreement so that these would then be simultaneously voted on at the annual town meetings this spring.
So we had our regular monthly meeting was last Tuesday with myself, the superintendent, the business manager, and with Rebecca Carroll and the other 2 towns. And one thing I asked them when their town meetings, when their warrants closed for the spring town meeting, to my great surprise, they said like mid-March, which is not, ours, anyhow, it's later. So maybe there is.
Don't tell anybody that.
Maybe there is gonna be time to get this to firm up. I mean, certainly I will recommend that the board keep a placeholder on for our warrant in hopes that the other towns kind of all come together and can agree on some things, but we won't know that for some time.
Well, if not, this would, I think we have to vote this at an annual town meeting, so it would have to be next year if it doesn't get going.
Right, right.
So on January 24th, there will be a tri-town meeting with the school committee, with select boards and FinComs of the 3 Pentucket communities regarding the FY24 budget. It will be at 6 p.m. on the 24th. Anything more we need to say about that, or?
No, I think Justin's email kind of summarizes things. I mean, I will say, I know you know this, but just for anyone else listening, they won't obviously have the state governor's proposed budget at that time, so they won't know anything about that. And we just got the word today, which I sent around by email, that it looks like the governor is intending to take the full roughly 8 weeks or so to propose a budget, which is not a surprise because that's obviously a lot of work she and her team have to do and not a lot of time. But that it means we're gonna have the time squeeze that we've kind of known all along with the state governor's budget proposed coming out early February with an anticipated school committee vote really only about a week after that. So in terms of the January 24th meeting, that they will present what they know about the costs, some of the factors on budgeting, and just it's giving their best guess on certain things, but really to build on the meeting that took place on November 1st. But I just want everyone to know that, you know, they won't have like the budget impact on the towns because they can't do that in the absence of the state budget.
Did he say anything about where is it gonna be in the auditorium again?
They
I thought I heard in the atrium.
that's they've talked about both. Let's see, both meetings will be held at the high school. It's likely they'll be held.
Okay.
Yeah,
The acoustics were pretty difficult.
yeah. Make sure to reinforce that point.
You know, although it's not really part of this discussion, I think it was a separate email today or in the last few days, with the letter from Justin, and I'm wondering if we as a board should send a letter to our state rep and or to our state senator in support of some of the points that the superintendent made, you know, helping to, you know, the points that explain this called severe deficit that the school district is going to be in. The deadline was the end of this month, I think, for a legislator to file a bill. You know, it's something that we think we ought to get involved with now.
I don't remember seeing that email. I might have missed it.
I think that was the one from earlier today that I forwarded.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it was, actually, I can find it, but yeah, it was probably sent today. There's been a lot of reading lately, so, as always.
Deadlines for new legislation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to take a second, to just read through that.
Okay. So are you suggesting we draft a letter?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we can cut and paste, this
Right.
is pretty
Those are
pretty
reports.
easy to deal with, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why not to, yeah.
right, right. And, you know, this is gonna have a huge impact on this town, on the entire school district, but, you know, this is gonna have a huge impact. It's really gonna impact, you know, affect the ability to provide a quality education. And, you know, it's great that we have a new middle school, high school, you know, fully supportive of what has been done there. But now we need to figure out how to pay for it, and this, you know, the way the state is handling things is making it increasingly impossible for us to pay for an education, you know, to support our education.
I'll try and cut and paste this and write a letter tomorrow. And
Okay,
send it around.
Okay, great, thanks, Rick.
It's mostly all there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, the content is pretty much there.
Well, also, we've got a FinCom meeting coming up this Wednesday, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well, just a preview of the January 24th meeting. I really hope we can get, you know, the full FinCom, or at least the majority of them in attendance that night.
Yeah, it would be great if, obviously, we can't directly impact it here, but, you know, if the other two Pentucket communities did something similar. You know, the more we act together, the more likely we're gonna get response.
Mhm.
You're saying in terms of a letter.
Right, yeah. I mean, their own individual letter, but
Yeah, 3 letters are better than 1 letter.
absolutely, yeah.
Or we can CC the other boards.
Yeah, that's great idea.
All right, anything else on that?
No.
Okay, item H, request for consent for KP Law to represent Whittier Tech and for determination that no conflict of interest arises from dual representation of Whittier Tech in the town of West Newbury. So, Whittier is, proposing a school building project, and they are planning to use KP Law as a special counsel related to this project. And their correspondence to us indicates that they don't feel that there would be any conflict of interest for them to work on the project with Whittier while simultaneously being the town council for the town of West Newbury. And interestingly, they're also a special counsel for a lot of other neighboring towns that are also part of the Whittier district. So I personally, you know, my personal feeling is that I don't see a particular problem in this case with that. So.
Do you think there could be a perceived issue if this building project results in a big cost increase for West Newbury residents, you know? I mean, I don't think there is a real conflict. I'm just wondering about the perception.
Okay, but do we want to then give up our representation have to
No, I'm just asking the question.
of the, well, anything can be perceived as anything, but
Yeah.
but I mean, I personally don't want to change horses change horses on this,
Yeah, no.
But is
I-
that the only outcome though? Could they just not accept this project with Whittier?
They could.
They could.
That would be their choice, and there are, probably 6 to 8 communities in there that looks like, use Whittier, or I'm sorry, use KP Law.
yeah, like Amesbury,
Either is their,
Way-
the
way-
town council or special council, one or the other.
way bigger communities than us, yeah.
Right, so, I guess what struck me, quite honestly, my first response was, nah, this is probably not a good idea, but, as I thought about it, KP Law is probably pretty savvy. That's part of why we've engaged them. And I don't think they would have suggested that they didn't think this was a problem if they thought it was a problem. Obviously, everybody can misjudge, but, I'm guessing the KP Law has thought this through pretty thoroughly, it involves a number of different clients.
I don't think they would want to, say sacrifice their
Relationships with.
their
multiple
relationship
clients,
with Amesbury and Newburyport and
Right.
Haverhill, 3 big communities
Right,
for this project, if they thought there was a,
that's sort of what, for me, what it boiled down.
yeah,
to.
to me, it was not that, if it was just us, then it's different, but this, like, you would think that, okay, it's in Haverhill, there might be more overlap of problems, in the city of Haverhill than there would be with us, so if I guess my feeling was, if Haverhill's okay with it, well, I think we should be, that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
and
here-
I don't wanna, this might be a bigger project for them than the little town of West Newbury. They might be more willing to sacrifice us than,
Right. Yeah, with our budget of $50,000 or $55,000. Yeah, so if you look at the other communities, it's city of Amesbury, city of Newburyport, city of Haverhill, town council for Georgetown, Groveland, Salisbury, and special and/or labor council for the town of Merrimack, Ipswich, and Rowley.
so every single one of those is a bigger town. than
Right, yeah,
us,
so it's actually, it's hard to find anything smaller except for Essex in this county. But, yeah, so it's 9 other communities, actually, not 7 or 8. If any of those communities see it as not being in their best interest, and if they balk, then that'll probably kill it. But, again, I guess I sort of sit back and think we put a tremendous amount of trust in KP Law at this point, and if they sincerely believe that this isn't gonna create a conflict, with all those other communities involved, then I guess I trust that.
Do we know if the other communities have voted on this or?
I don't think we know that, but any one of those 9 might balk,
So didn't you just say though, if any of the other communities balk, then maybe we should not?
no, I said if any of those others balk, it'll kill it. I expect,
It'll kill the,
kill KP Law doing this.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
It's like, if they represent the same kind of thing, they would rather back off.
right.
I'm trying to think between now and, let's lay this forward of assuming something would go to the voters, a year from April, so 16 months from now. What legal advice would we be seeking? I mean, you never know what things would go, but in the host community, it'd be very easy to see there could be questions that would come up on any number of things.
Yeah.
Permitting and site and so forth. But for our piece, our voters are just gonna be asked to contribute their share of the funding. It's hard for me to envision what legal questions we would even have.
Right.
Related to this project.
Yeah, Haverhill's got a lot more skin in the
Right.
game than we do.
Yeah, I mean, I even think of the middle high school, and obviously Karen was our counsel for a significant part of that, not KP, but I don't recall that we had hardly any legal questions, and that's for one that is, much more impactful.
The only thing being was like, how much was the district gonna cover in terms of our building inspector costs and stuff?
That's right.
That was
big.
one.
Yeah, that was good, yeah.
I think it sounds like this is a lot of procurement, council work as well, for the building project, so that's different than what we were
Mhm.
dealing with.
So what's everyone's feeling? Do we want to hold off or
Only if you
Not
would
be the-
change your opinion.
not be the first ones to say no? I mean, I don't have a reason to say no. So that's, yeah. I think I don't have a bad vibe about KP Law at all. I think they've given us good work. That's my feeling.
Yeah. Okay, all right, so I guess, I would move that we sign this letter with determination, that we're okay with, KP Law representing, Weir Technical School District, as well as West Newbury.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
All right,
Thank you. So we'll provide, 2 originals for you to sign, and we'll send one for now, we'll keep one in our thoughts.
Okay, I'll let someone else start. I hate talking about schedules. It drives me crazy. I'll let someone else talk about it. So we want to just, there's a lot going on, so.
I can talk about it.
5 select board meetings in 6 weeks. In order to better space out the meetings, we want to revise the first couple months of the schedule. So
Yeah.
in that sense, I've decided that this meeting does not exist and we're going to get rid of this meeting.
I don't feel strongly about this. If we stick with the schedule, that's fine with me. It's I don't, for a meeting a week from, tomorrow, I don't really have a full, I don't really know, other than, I will say, back when the schedule was approved, I did reach out to Corinne and we had penciled in the 17th for the library board presentation. So if we change that, that's.
So what about our friends from the Newburyport Water Department?
Well, I think where they didn't get the SRF funding, I think that's.
So things are gonna be slower.
Things are gonna be slower.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's totally up to you. It's just, I'm mindful, when there's meetings, I'm mindful of the time it takes to prepare for the meetings.
right,
That I do need to start getting focused on budget. Articles, so.
no, I mean, unless there's a compelling need for us to meet 6 times in the next, or I guess it's 5 times in the next 6 weeks as opposed to 4 times in the next 6 weeks. Personally, I'm good with 4.
It's actually the same number of meetings as I'm looking at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just spaced out a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had, taken advantage of not meeting January 23rd so that I could meet with the Concom.
That's right.
So-
Okay. Yeah, I had forgotten about that.
Could we
yeah.
not meet the 17th, but meet the 23rd and the 30th? Oh, then you'd have 3 meetings in a row, that would be.
Well, which is.
then we'd have 4 meetings in a row, actually.
We have to meet the 6th, because that's the closing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, then we'd be the 23rd, 30th, 6th and 13th.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had
okay.
forgotten about that, and that is, yeah, that has been agreed with them.
Which, that was the
To attend
23rd.
Concom to talk about,
the bylaw and
Oh,
the
okay,
agent.
okay, all right. I didn't know, okay, I didn't know that was the bylaw too.
Well, yeah, I think it's better to not have them.
So I guess, you know, if we stick with the schedule, it just probably would be a relatively light meeting next Tuesday, which would be fine.
What?
But what about the library board though?
And they're already penciled in for the 7th.
Okay,
So that would be one of the items on for next Tuesday,
Okay.
and there might not be much beyond that.
okay.
Who was that again?
The library board to present their 5-year plan.
Okay.
So that might actually work out fine then.
Yeah, it actually works out better when you take into account those other, haven't occurred to me.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm fine we've already, yeah, I'm fine with the schedule. So we approved.
So we'd just be adding the 6th.
Oh, that's right, it is.
That was the whole-
That was the whole reason for it. Right, that was the whole reason for it, is, the addition.
That's why I'd be happy to talk about it.
Right, right.
The whole idea came about was because, Angus had mentioned, oh, we're gonna have the 6th to close the warrant. And I said, oh, then that means we're gonna be 3 weeks in a row
Yeah.
with the 30th, 6th and 13th.
Got it.
And so the idea was we move 23rd and we're not adding any more meetings. We're saying not just moving around the dates. That was the idea. But I didn't know about the other things.
Right, yeah, and I haven't focused on those either, so.
Can we eliminate the 13th?
Potentially, I mean, yeah, potentially, I think if the 6th of February ends up being a regular meeting,
Mhm.
then yeah, I think we probably, well. I don't know, because
There's a lot.
there's a lot going on, but also there's some appeal, I think, with the 6th being kind of really about the budget presentation and closing the warrant.
Mhm.
And not much, if anything else. That's kind of when we talk about adding that date. I think that's what I'd had in mind, is it be kind of, instead of it being shoehorned into a regular meeting, and kind of be center stage, the budget presentation and the warrant closing. But the other reason about the 13th is, as you'll recall from prior cycles, or last year anyway, I present the budget, but the way the town manager act reads is the budget that goes to FinCom is the budget as referred by the select board.
Mhm.
So, you know, maybe what you see on February 6th, you all say that's fine to go forward. But if you say, hey, we have questions about this, that, and the other thing, having the 13th is kind of a safety valve. That I hope it will come to that, but you know, I
Mhm.
want to get it right. So if you have questions about a couple of items in the budget that I don't have good answers for, having a meeting the following Monday gives a little time to, you know, sharpen my pencil on those things before the FinCom process starts on the 15th of February. So that,
Well,
is some,
So is there a possibility that would be, the 13th would be purely
like
not a
a
correction meeting, but
but like a just in case kind of.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Contingency, or, yeah, or now there's, anyhow, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what comes along between now and then,
Right.
right? I mean,
Well, if we can work it out to keep the 23rd open, that's great, but
Yeah.
if it's a deal breaker, then. I'll just-
no, I think it's, as we're talking through, I think we just. I mean, you look at a typical 52-week cycle, this board typically meets 40 to 42 times.
Mhm.
And that's how it was in 2018, that's how it's been, you know, it's not, it's just, we meet a lot. And it does, you know, when you compound that with the other, you know, the FinCom and capital improvement and CPC and affordable housing, it's just, I'm at meetings a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm preparing for meetings a lot, and it just does not leave a lot of time to just sit for hours at a time and just work on budget, which is really what I need to be doing this time of year, so. But I think if everyone, you know, if everyone understands the light agenda, you know, we're not gonna pack in stuff that all just drives time to prepare. I think that's fine. You know, I don't know, Jim, if you're at the breaking point with number of meetings, we could, you know, you could sit out a meeting and that would be fine. And, you know, we could just record it, do the minutes that way. That's not an issue.
I was thinking more for your mental state than anything else.
Yeah, that's tough to guard. That's kind of either. It's a losing battle.
So could the goal be to just have the 17th be the library trustee meeting?
Yeah, that would
There'd
be
be very
great.
little preparation.
Yeah, that would be next to no preparation. Yeah, because that's all. Yeah. I mean, sitting here right now, I really don't really have anything penciled in for next Tuesday.
What do we know about the content of that meeting with the Board of Library Trustees?
Just to present their strategic plan.
Okay.
that
Okay.
They've been working on.
All right, I forgot all about reading that a month ago.
I think it was back right around the special town meeting in the October that they voted to endorse it, I think.
Yeah,
Just a short time before that.
yeah.
Mhm. All right, Archie, you done with the schedule discussion?
Okay, so we'll leave it as is, that's fine. All right, next.
You really
week.
dodged a bullet on that. I don't want to take. So you know what happened in the last 10 minutes?
No.
Nothing. That's good, because nothing happened. Actually, we did still add January or February 6th,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Are we up to date on the minutes now?
No.
No? Oh.
No.
but in the modern era,
In the modern era,
I-
yes.
yeah, there's still some backlog.
Is there?
Yeah.
January, December, January, February is pretty much it. But for the most part, we will be caught up on everything by June, I think. So we should be good.
Very good.
It's been a marathon.
Mm.
Is it possible that, then on the 17th, that if it's just for the Board of Library Trustees, that there would not be an executive session beforehand?
All depends what happens between now and Friday.
Okay, so it's not. Okay. Just testing.
Well, we didn't, you know, I know I did get an email from Corinne, that she, you know, seemed to suggest that, I think an earlier start there would be greatly favored. So if there isn't an executive session or if there's a light one, maybe we could look at an earlier start time,
Yeah.
6 or 6:30. And so I'll work with Archie on.
Or if we had to do an executive session, we can do it afterwards.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good.
yeah, that's a good idea. We could start with. Yeah, good. I'll get back to her and let her know that we can be flexible on time.
Okay, we got a couple of minutes. Meeting minutes for meetings of November 21st, December 5th, and December 12th. Any comments?
Area 1,
Okay,
I move we accept the meeting minutes for November 21st, December 5th, and December 12th, 2022.
discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Rebecca's nailing it.
Sure is. Screwed. Good, thank you. Let's see. Next item. Oh, okay, so I had previously circulated via email the budget packet, but that I just included that really for informational. It went out a little later than hoped, but I think it came together nicely. It would have been nice to get it out more like early December than late December, but you know, busy, so.
I have a question on it. I think I saw something somewhere that if department heads feel like an increase in the staff rate is
Yes.
warranted, they would propose it.
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether we should wait to do any increases until we implement the performance evaluation.
I think we
system.
would.
Okay,
In practice, but that's the same language I've used in the past. It's
Yeah.
basically, it's, you know, what I always, all the budgets I've been doing both here and my prior job, I want to hear from the department head what they think they need or they think is appropriate.
Mhm.
I might not be able to support that in the budget I bring forward, but I definitely look at the budgeting processes. You know, I don't want people to think like there's anything they shouldn't bring forward, even if I can't include it in my budget.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, I think the board's been clear and I'm in agreement that we would, you know, we're not looking at, I wouldn't anticipate proposing changes like that in my proposed budget.
All right.
But, and in prior years, other than last year, where there was some very, very vocal proposals for wage changes other than COLA, that was the exception, not the rule. Typically, that has not been something that departments have brought forward in their proposed budgets. And I think following on the wage study, I don't think it's really timely.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
I kept similar, you know, the same language that I've used in prior years.
Okay, thanks.
We will be, you know, looking for the board to kind of hold the line on this article request form. I tried to emphasize that that is expected this year. That's been kind of optional for the last few years.
I guess that means we have to do it too.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I included Wednesday's FinCom agenda just because even though it's not directly into the budget cycle, it just kind of gives you a preview of some of what they're looking at. I talked to someone today with the chair. I certainly hope that these extra meetings we've had since between special town meeting and the presentation of the budget, so the meetings in November, December, and now January, I hope are going to be successful at kind of clearing the decks of some of their underlying policy questions, because we're really not going to have time to be
Yeah.
talking about that February, March, when I need them focused on the budget article request. So the chair and I are in total alignment on that. So I'm hoping this Wednesday we can kind of clear the decks of some of this stuff that we're talking about kind of ad nauseum, month after month after month.
So I see item 6 on the agenda.
Yes.
Should I go and whack a few heads around
It's
there?
a public meeting. I always would encourage someone to go to a public meeting if it's of interest. I know Wendy's planning to be there for at least the first hour because she's got Affordable Housing Trust starting at 7 on Wednesday. But I mean, I did write a memo on that topic and I hope that it will get the point across. Rick had suggested to me a month or so ago, because he knew that we were kind of like running around in circles on this issue, and Rick said something to the effect of, he said, you've explained it verbally a number of times, put that in writing and maybe that will kind of at least get people to, not continue to ask the same question, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's.
Are they trying, yeah, I mean, you've been to the meeting.
Yeah.
So this is on we can talk about it. It's sort of on the agenda.
Yeah.
So are they arguing that budgeting should be more tight and we're not?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of, I think
They don't like turn
the
back?
turnbacks,
Okay.
yeah. I think they understand on the revenues that the revenues are almost always going to be in excess of projected by design. That's what DOR, like if that's the way it's set up. You're not supposed to project all the revenue. So you're supposed to project like 90% of the revenues because DOR wants you to have some conservatism built in there. I think the concern is more on the expense side with the turnbacks, and I'm happy to go through with them, you know, every line where there were turnbacks and why there were turnbacks and one of those, yeah, I mean, you know what they are. They're,
I
There's
don't
always
want to
reasons.
hear about it, I
There's
just wanted to
reasons.
know what,
Yeah.
okay, all right,
so.
I might have to go.
So do you have the FinCom meeting, the schedule? I know you read it
Yes.
out to us.
Yep,
Um,
yeah, it's every Wednesday from February 15th to March 22nd.
Okay,
And they're always at 6 p.m. And other than this week, which is in the second floor hearing room, they're all in the first floor hearing room. We've locked in this room for those.
okay, so we'll have
Dates.
to move the other two affordable housing.
Okay,
So if we're recording the meeting, though, that has to be in this room, right?
no, I mean, in order to get a good experience for Zoom participants, you need to, you know, we could set up that white microphone and attach it to a laptop. It would take some advanced prep, but we did it before we got the owl. It was not as good as the owl, but it's still, you can do it.
Okay.
And you can record it through Zoom. You couldn't do live recording. This is the only room that's set up, I think, for live recording. I think that's right.
Unless you want another.
Right, yeah. But even then, without the screen, you still don't, if you buy it. Right, yeah, like the person hosting sees everyone on the Zoom, but without that screen, you wouldn't see that.
Okay, so this, we could probably take this offline, but Liz is gonna be out of the country, so
Okay,
it's kind of critical for us to be in this room.
oh, okay,
Maybe each person could bring their own laptop and mute.
if they mute, yeah, Adam's verifying, this is the only live. There, I feel like there end up being, you might be right, but.
I think if you're muted, that there shouldn't be crosstalk then. Or, feedback.
As long as you're muted and all the volumes off the computer, yes.
Yeah,
So are they?
That's
using
right,
it
the
outside?
volume is, yeah, that's the other point, yeah, because if you are muted, but it's projecting, then it's gonna be picked up in this mic and it's gonna create
Yeah.
like a feedback.
yeah.
Do they need the owl setup? Or is it just that they're?
Actually, no, I think we could see about moving this up, no, because they, at least so far, they have not been doing hybrid meetings.
Yeah.
Getting in a budget cycle, that's up to the chair. He's definitely prefers to do in-person meetings, does not want to do hybrid meetings. If he holds the line on that, then we wouldn't need the owl.
Okay.
And I can talk to him if they're willing to move upstairs, if they don't need the owl and someone else does.
Mhm.
But they were pretty bent out of shape.
That's because they didn't know ahead of time, I think.
Right.
So, okay.
Let's see. Item L, I just included a couple of miscellaneous updates. There's some other things that have been going on too, but there's really some things that happens with regard to primarily the Middle Street Bridge with the 401 certification and that's
So
what I-
that, I noticed on that expires in 2023, but
yeah.
so we have to apply all over again?
Yeah, well, that was part of this, so a couple of things, expire in April. So a couple of the permits that have previously been issued need to be. We're gonna need to seek renewals,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so the grant itself, should we we talk about writing letters to Commonwealth and so forth. So now we have a new administration and we're gonna have a new secretary of that department. So um, they were not sanguine about us getting another renewal before, but now there's a new administration. I mean, maybe they'll be like, we don't want to have anything to do with an old one, or we just don't know. So I think that we should let them get their feet wet for a month or so, and then reach out and see whether we can get this, keep this money viable for at least another year. We have to,
Yeah, we've got to make every
effort.
And I think I'm looking to get a meeting together with, our counterparts in Newbury, but I think it would be really, if not absolutely necessary, it would be really helpful to have something tangible from the city of Newburyport in the form of either or both, really. Either an updated intermunicipal agreement, or at least like tangible progress toward that, as well as seeing funding in their FY24 capital program for this project. I think without either or both of those things, it's hard to, those are really important, I think, to us making the case with the state that this is worth continuing to.
The other thing is, the districts were changed, I believe. Senator Tarr is now Newburyport. He never was before. Is he Newburyport now?
Yeah, I think you're right.
You think so, Jim?
Yeah, so he picked up Newburyport, Salisbury, up to Amesbury's line, essentially.
Okay,
So Amesbury is now very fine with its district, all the way down to Andover.
okay, so now we have one person on both sides of the bridge, which is probably better. Okay,
Helps, doesn't hurt,
yeah,
but we did lose a Republican governor and gained the
right.
Democratic governor, a Republican senator, so.
And the Senate minority is like almost non-existent at this point. I
Three
think,
members.
I think there's like,
Is that the 3 members?
there's 3, and I think there was 5 or
But
something.
he is the minority leader, so.
He's the leader. There's 40. So Angus, you think that's a good, I think we should,
Yeah,
there's gotta be too much going on for them to pay any attention to something we'd write to them now, I would think.
yeah, I mean, I think there's things that, we're in touch with the Mass Works office, basically monthly and quarterly, because we have to submit quarterly reports, which we submitted one right at the end of December, and we also, every month with the invoice we put through, we have to put a little 2-page transmittal with every invoice, so we're kind of in touch with that office regularly, and I think there's things.
Are those, would you say those are permanent staffers or
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming that it's the same, we'll have the same project manager with MassWorks, but I haven't asked that. I don't know that. So I think that, there's nothing, I think we're gonna have to go at this in multiple ways. I mean, Wayne and I need to work with the grant administrator, but at a more of a higher level, political level, I think that you're right.
I mean, what's your vibe from the mayor?
It's too soon to say. I mean, I met with him and his chief of staff back in, I want to say it was right around Thanksgiving. It was either late November, early December. And, he acknowledged that would be something that they would work toward, but it wasn't clear that was the, I mean, I wouldn't take that to the bank.
Okay,
So
I mean, I did read that a project that they're doing that
budget.
was 3 million above their budget, so their fire station, so that's not helpful.
Yeah.
So you talked about, Senator Tar. We have two different reps, we have a different rep, but I guess both of them are new, both, our rep and Newburyport's rep are new. But, does it make sense to enlist them?
Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. But again, I think we give them a month to get the feedback.
Absolutely, no, I agree with you, yeah. So, the grant basically turns into a pumpkin at the end of the fiscal year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot at stake.
Okay, where are we?
I think we're just about at the end, believe it or not.
So this
We must have
article,
missed something. Isn't there another agenda?
the article about the traffic safety law, is that just general?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Archie wanted.
I wanted to bring this up because, okay, so I think this is information good for all of us and so very recently, one of the last things that on Governor Baker's docket was a bill that he had sent back to the legislature. They sent it back to him in late December. And so it's traffic safety related. And so one of the things it did, it changed basically not something we can do about it, but good that automobiles passing any kind of joggers or bicyclists or skateboarders or whatever is in the road or farm vehicles have to give a leeway of 4 feet when they're passing passing one of those kind of things on a Massachusetts road. But what's important, so that's good, but what's important for the town of West Newbury is that the ability of the town to request changes to speed limits and perhaps safety things like crosswalks on town roads, as well actually now also on state roads is going to be less demanding than it used to be. They're going to give the town more leeway. We still have to petition the Department of Transportation to change such a road, but it seems they're going to be more willing to do so because we tried on certain roads for safety reasons and you have to do traffic studies and lots of things, and then they usually tell us they can't do it after we do it, we can't do it anyway. So now the fact that we could even perhaps change speed limits on 113 or add additional crosswalks or whatever, I think it's a great thing. So now if we get correspondence, complaints, whatever from residents about a particular area, we don't necessarily have to say, forget it, there's not really much we can do about it. It seems like now it's worth pursuing things if we want to do so. And we do know that there was recent pedestrian incident right near here, so, that's just something to keep in our mind, that we can, it is possible now that we can make some changes to town roads that we couldn't formally, because most of, essentially West Newbury is classified as a non-thickly settled community, and so the Department of Transportation therefore has a sort of higher allowed speed limits on roads in the areas that are considered not thickly settled, so that's.
So is it?
So this is just for informational purpose, but I thought it was this just happened like a week ago.
Yeah, no, I noted that, I'm glad I'd forgotten about that, because I wanted to talk, because there's some specific roads that I think.
I was wondering
you
about
know-
Chase Street, is it worth revisiting that, because we tried to.
Right, with Chase Street and also Church Street, we tried to address Church
Was it
Street.
church or was it bridge? Or was it?
Uh,
I think it was Bridge.
I think
oh, was it Bridge? Okay. I thought it was
Which
Church.
one was it? I don't know.
I think it was Bridge.
Street? Okay.
Yeah.
But Chase Street is like, it's a short area. I mean, I don't think people use that very much for commuting or anything, but it seems like that one might be a low hanging fruit. Maybe we could try that one again.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see exactly what the rule is now. Was it, from nothing I've read yet, was it clear exactly what the change was? You know, supposedly more within, the town has more control now, or will have more control, but it's not clear to me how that will be. You know, that's the general claim.
Well, they still have to ask them, but they.
But, you know, before I think it was kind of seemed almost silly before. What they did is you had to figure out what the average speed, you know, what the speed profile was for the road in terms of, you know, how many cars were within what.
Oh,
range.
yeah, right.
And then if you were asking for a number that was below that or too far below that, they would not. So if everybody on the road was speeding and you wanted to change the speed limit, they said, well, no, everybody's already going 50 miles.
It
an hour.
was like this, people self-correct, sort of,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was, I think that was the first experience I had, you know, dealing with that Bridge Street and then Chase Street, and I thought in both cases, Wayne and his team did an excellent job with the documentation of the study and working with public safety and getting the speed meters, and it was very demoralizing to see both of those just kick back, you know, because I thought he did a really nice job with that.
I did a lot of work on that, yeah.
Yeah. It was distressing to have nothing to show for it.
The other one that will be interesting, should we ever be so fortunate for it to come up as an opportunity, is Bridge Street to the bridge. From Garden Street to, I'm sorry, not Bridge Street, Middle Street to the bridge. You know, so from Garden Street to the bridge, and obviously Newburyport might be interested on their side as well. You know, because I think there's a legitimate concern that if the bridge is up, when the bridge is finally upgraded and rebuilt, that people will feel comfortable going faster. And, you know, I'm kind of wondering, you know, if a road has been closed for 5 or 6 years, are you starting with a clean slate? Can you do whatever you want with the speed limit?
Yeah,
I mean,
doing what, Rick? Who going which way? So I guess
But basically trying to keep the speeds reasonable. You know, I see one.
on Middle Street.
Yeah, on Middle Street, as an alternate route to get to, the industrial park. In
Oh.
Newburyport, you know, I see a legitimate concern in increased truck traffic and increased speed, because people will be using the road as a commuter road, because the bridge will now be more friendly to drivers.
Oh,
And, so, you know, when we get to that point, do we want to try to set the speed threshold quite low on that stretch of road?
I see what you mean. Now it'll be a better bridge that
Right.
the people might
Right.
be
And-
even more.
And,
inclined to
and
use.
if
Okay.
trucks were, as has been claimed or was claimed early on, if trucks were part of the reason for the bridge's failure. But there's now a bigger, better bridge. Does that mean we're gonna get more truck traffic and,
I don't know.
and faster traffic? And, you know, so it's just something to think about when we get to that point.
Yeah, because what is that road that goes down towards in Newburyport down towards the,
Palmer Spring.
Either the name of it in Palmer Spring or which road?
yeah, but is it Plummer Spring once it gets
No, it's Hale Street.
Hale Street? That's what I meant. Hale Street, I bike there and people haul down
Yeah,
that road.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
there's no good shoulder in that road.
they really go fast on
Yeah,
that
so you have
road,
to
because
ride your bike really fast.
it's straight and it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I usually grab onto the the door handle and get it. Well, I'm very careful on that road.
Yeah, same with me, no, it's, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
We don't actually know what the rule is yet.
I don't think we do.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it seems like something good came out of the legislature.
Remind me, which of you are also going to the MMA annual meeting?
I am.
You are, anyone else?
No,
Okay, so we can look at which sessions,
Yeah.
we'll each cover and.
Yeah,
Try to get as much value from that as we
sounds
can.
good, yeah.
That is a week from Friday and Saturday, so Rick and I will be down in Boston for the MMA annual conference and trade show. It's always been worthwhile in my
Right.
experience.
Yeah, I decided to not stay down there. I did last time, but I don't think I'm gonna do that this time.
get lots of swag.
Yeah. I get too much junk in my life already.
And now I'm getting kicked off the public Wi-Fi. So,
Oh,
yeah. Are you guys having any problems with Wi-Fi?
I'm not.
I'm not on the Wi-Fi, so.
Yeah, okay,
So they have
Checking in for
internet
Jake.
access,
really?
yeah, when I go to my, the Wi-Fi, so you're getting kicked right off the Wi-Fi, not just,
I was on and then it, lapsed and I tried to log on again,
huh,
toggling between town offices and public Wi-Fi.
my iPad is not having any trouble.
Hmm,
Yeah, I'm all public.
okay.
Motion to adjourn,
second,
all those in favor? Aye.
I,